What is up, my Stopstorm Retro Strike? You're discharging a nice and new Let's Play to the channel. This will be the nice and introduction to this Let's Play. It's not going to be starting up probably till next week at the earliest, but I want to at least get the nice and introduction out of the way now, so that way once next week hits along, it becomes straight out, which will be nice and new for the channel because I mean, we just finished up Platinum. We're kind of just hunting for legendaries on Mystery Dungeon, so it's only a matter of time till that's kind of kaput. Platinum, we finished the story mode, but we might go back, at least go for the legendaries. Look what's in the Battle Frontier. Might do the post-story mode shit, but I don't know. That will be in due time. Definitely due time. But without further ado, let me explain the Dicelocke. Now, the Dicelocke, it's a combination of a NUZLOCKE but with a twist. With a twist! Gets me every time. But basically it is a NUZLOCKE. Oh, I have to freaking get a thing of dice for this, just so I can show you guys what is going on. Yeah, you would think I'd be prepared and I would have like dice sitting out already. Nah, I ain't that prepared. And apparently my freaking cord just went. That's great. Technical malfunctions. You gotta love them. Yeah. Just freaking terrific. And I know this technically isn't even connected to the software, but whatever. My freaking OCD. My dice, if you guys can see. I'm not using all these dice. This is just all the dice that I use. These are mainly my D&D dice. But we'd be using this nice and D6, which is just your standard die. But NUZLOCKE rules, for those who don't know, let me not try to deviate from what I'm trying to do, because I was going to try to explain it in a different way, but let's not. So the rules of a NUZLOCKE are you can only capture the first Pokemon you find on each route, which basically is encounters. You can only get the first encounter on each route. If I capture it, great. If I don't, sucks a suck for me, right? The second one, all Pokemon must be given a nickname to form a special bond. So, yeah, every Pokemon we get, we're going to be nicknaming something. Usually something based off of the name or a pun. Yeah, I'm that terrible. I'll go pun-wise. I will go puns. All Pokemon that faint must be either sent away in the PC in a death box or be released. But I will go back to that and that will be addressed in just a couple minutes. Just bear with me, because that does not exactly apply to what we're doing. Not exactly. It does apply, but doesn't. I'll explain that in just a couple moments, because that's going to be the second half of the rule set. This is the base rule set for NUZLOCKEs. There are other small rules that I go by in NUZLOCKEs, like Species Clause, which is the same as Dupe's Clause. That I have either, but Dupe's Clause is optional. As in, I could either capture it if I really want it, another one of them, like if it's already in the death box and I want another one, I have by all means to do it, or I can say, fuck it, let me find something else. There's also a Shiny Clause I have, which but I mean, that's almost going without saying. In Pokemon Crystal it was Heart Gold, Gold and Silver, along with Crystal. Gen 2 was the first generation to have shinies. So if we find a fucking shiny, we're fucking capturing that shit. The Lake of Rage Gyarados probably isn't going to be shiny. It probably isn't going to be Gyarados anyway, because of the randomization that I always will randomize Pokemon to be like the standing Pokemon, the legendaries or whatever. They will always be randomized. So instead of finding a Raikou, and we're supposed to find a Raikou, we're going to find like a Skarmory. But what are you going to do? And last but not least, goes back to Legends, a Legends clause. If we find a legendary Pokemon, I'm going to try my best to obtain it. Regardless of the encounter on that route, if we already if that is our first encounter, holy fucking shit, that's great. If it's not, I'm still fucking capturing that legendary regardless. Because, yes, it's also a raised rate in finding a legendary because there's only 250? 200 some odd Pokemon total from these games. From Crystal, there's 200 some odd Pokemon. It's a small amount of Pokemon, but still trying to find legendaries, it's a bitch and a half. But that's why I like to use the legendary clause, because we don't really find legendaries. It's nice and easy to try to find all sorts of legendaries, and then even if there's not always a chance we're going to even use them. Sometimes times call for desperate measures, and I'll have to use a legendary in the team. Or either I want to, like if we find a fucking Raikou, I'm using that shit on our team regardless. But anyhow, we got our Dicelocke rules now. Those were our NUZLOCKE base set rules. Now time for this bad boy where he comes into play. Dicelocke rules. The first rule for the Dicelocke is the encounter rule. So instead of the first encounter, we roll for the first encounter. So it's not going to be the first Pokemon we find, always. It'll be, like I just rolled, that was a 1. But it's not always going to be that. Like if I just roll again, it's 2. Like every time before you step in a patch of grass where and this is just a quick deviation, the rules for NUZLOCKE and Dicelocke only apply once we have Pokeballs. Because we can't capture anything. We can't do just about anything. Though the moves... actually, I'm sorry. Pretty much almost none of the rules apply until we have Pokeballs. Except for the second rule on the list, but I'll get to that in just about a second. But the encounter roll, you roll, you find, and that's going to count as your first encounter. As in your capture encounter. I'm sorry, we're not going to call it the first encounter. We're going to call it the capture encounter from now on, because the first encounter literally means the first Pokemon we find. That's not the case, because if we roll a dice and we get 6, we have to go through 6 freaking cycles to get one Pokemon, which is kind of annoying, but whatever. Especially since there's no running shoes in this game. But now what I just talked about, this brings up to the second rule of Dicelocke, which was, this rule actually still applies regardless if we have Pokeballs or not. All moves in battle must be chosen through the roll of a die. Or a die, whatever you want to fucking call it. Obviously, the numbers are going to correspond, like 1, 2, 3, 4, determine the moves. And the way I'm determining the way which moves are chosen goes top to bottom, left to right. So the top row has 1 and 2, and then left is 1. Right is 2, and then 3 is bottom left corner, 4 is bottom right corner. Makes sense. Number 5, if we roll a 5, we have to switch out and roll to see who gets switched out. Though if we only have 1 Pokemon, 5 is just another reroll. 6 is a reroll. We just have to reroll again and just get something else. Because the way I I got inspired by Nate Wants to Battle's Die-Fi battles, and his 6 was Mega Evolve. So basically, if you didn't have anyone that can Mega Evolve, you made 6 rerolls. So that's just how I had to do it. And just quick side note, this is going to be a lot of side notes, I'm just saying this now. The movements of the character itself will not be determined by dice roll. because I would have to be running freaking like D8s, D12s. I'm sorry, like D20s and all that. We're not going to be doing that. No, it's ridiculous. But yeah, only the movements that are done in battle matter. Items. To use an item, I might make it a dice rule. I didn't really think of that at the time, and I'm just thinking about it now. I think I'm not gonna make it a rule of that, and if I do, it's probably gonna be like you do or you don't. As in, if I roll the d6 and I have to, basically, I would have to score above a 3, and if I get a 1, which would technically in D&D rules would be a critical fail, I'd pretty much not be able to use items for the rest of the battle, which is pretty fucking bad, but whatever. So there we got the moves out of the way, which I just said the 5 is rolled in battle. Okay, now this brings us to the death roll. Now, what I said about the NUZLOCKE base for the deaths where they're automatically put into PC or released, blah blah blah, that's not the case here. Death roll, when a Pokemon faints, you have the option of rolling to save it. But here's the problem. Half of it is other shit. Half of it is basically fine. Basically, if you don't roll a 6, bad shit's happening. Even though if you score above a 3, you still save yourself, but you're still getting penalties. 6 is the only way you avoid penalties, which is a crit, but it's one of the good crits, not a critical fail. Oh, this hat's annoying me. So the death roll, to best explain it, you have the option to roll for it, but the problem is because of the fact that I have to say it's an option. I don't want to make it forced because that would be a bitch. Because trying to constantly roll for a 6 or even something above a 3 is ridiculous. But to explain what the death rolls, like each mechanic of the death roll really is, which I mean, I shouldn't say each mechanic, but the mechanic itself of it is, if you roll a 1, you lose that Pokemon and 5 encounters or PC Pokemon. If you roll 2, you lose that active Pokemon. Basically, 1, 2, and 3, you're losing the active Pokemon. Just different stipulations. If you roll 2, you lose the Pokemon in 3 encounters or your PC, or a legendary encounter. That means we'll have to lose that legendary encounter. That means even if we find another route, that still counts as a legendary encounter. That's not a encounter, it's a legendary encounter as we found it. That means we can't find it for the rest of the game. Number 3 is actually the least damaging one for criticals, which is just you lose the Pokemon. Like, for the for losses, that's actually not the worst loss. Because you don't lose anything else, you just lose the active Pokemon. You lose encounters, because you almost got through. But 4 would be you saved the active Pokemon. But you lose 3 encounters or PC Pokemon. 5, you save the Pokemon, but you lose 1 encounter or a PC Pokemon. And then 6 is the perfect save. What I like to call the perfect save, which is you save the Pokemon and there's no repercussions. And the reason I made a perfect save is because, obviously, D&D, you get the highest amounts, practically a crit. And it's just so hard to try to constantly roll 6s. So that way you kind of have to give yourself a little bit of breathing room on that. And then 5 is the encounter reroll, which, if the encounter you find in the initial roll is not in your favor, as in you really don't, like, this is the easiest way I can explain it. If we have let's say a Bulbasaur, because this is going to be randomized, and we're going to go up against Falkner, and we have yet to find a advantageous Pokemon against his flying types, which I don't. Yeah, I'm probably gonna try to see if I can make him type themed this time, but I want to try to make sure they're still randomized regardless. Either that, if they still can't be random, I'm still gonna try and make them randomized, but I want to kind of try to make it type themed. I don't know. I'll definitely figure it out because this is still in the works. I still have a little bit of time to try to make it work. But back to the counter reroll. So yeah, if we can't find anything advantageous, we have one reroll of the die to try to get that Pokemon, and if it's nothing that we can use, oh the hell well. That's the only time you can even reroll, even on if you can. The only time you can reroll on a reroll is if it's dupes, but that's just dupe clause. And dupe clause is always an optional reroll. So if you don't want to have the dupes clause and capture that, just reroll it again. You don't even have to waste an encounter reroll. It doesn't work on that. But you can get a reroll on the encounter reroll if it's dupes, if that makes sense. But one little thing for the encounter reroll. You start off the game with one reroll, which is fair. So that way if you can't really find anything before Falconer, you get one reroll. But you only get one reroll every new gym badge. So after we Falconer, we get one more, and then one more. So if we don't use ours, we technically can stack ours, but I'm not going to do stacking. What I'll do is I'll make sure I just use it before the next chance. And what I may even do, if we even survive that long, the Victory Road for those encounters, what we'll do for that is if we have any extra rerolls for by Victory Road, if we have a good amount of rerolls, I'll turn those into encounters. As in, we'll use those. Let me try to not stutter. We'll use those rerolls, and instead of using them as rerolls, we'll use them as encounters, where we won't have to reroll the dice every time to get new Pokemon. They're just encounters. Reroll's a different story where it's just one counter for that route. If we made it to Victory Road and we have extra rerolls, that's when we can start using those. Start turning them into encounters instead. And then we can just actually give each encounter of those a different roll, which is nice. Because then by that point in the game, we would actually need those rolls. Because freaking the Elite Four is merciless in this game. That literally no mercy. Especially if there's freaking like 3 Dragonites. Like, fuck that noise. Fuck that noise. Hyper Beam everything, no thank you. But that's basically it for the Dicelocke rules. Thank you all for watching this introduction video. The Let's Play itself should be starting around next week. I want to try to make it on Monday, and then have Platinum become a Tuesday thing. And then I might even do Mystery Dungeon on like weekends. I'll like record it ahead of time and then post it up on weekends. Just so that way everyone has, like, there's still always something on the channel. I don't want to like inundate you guys with so much new stuff, and I don't want to have to kill off Let's Plays for no reason. But I mean, Mystery Dungeon's kind of dying down at this point, and like it's gotten to the point where we're kind of just not doing much, if at all anything. I mean, there's still new stuff we can unlock, but I'd have to do Wonder Mail stuff on this side, and that's just shit that stocks up too fast, and it just pulls us back from stuff that we can't advance. Because I have a ton of stuff I want to try to get to. I want to get to this Dicelocke. I want to get to the verses that I really want to do. I'll probably make an update video about that in the coming days. Probably even as soon as tomorrow. I'll probably talk more about it. But this isn't stuff that's probably not. This is not happening till like summer. The Dicelocke is happening soon. Very, very, very soon. This should have been happening like 3 months ago. But instead it's happening now. But what are you gonna do when you had a platinum Nuzlocke just for filler? Now you got this, which I'm very, very, very excited for, and also very, very scared because I have no idea what I'm getting myself into. Ugh, those really bad moments. But thank you all for watching. Be sure to Thunderbolt the living hell the like button, subscribe button if you are hyped as fuck for this Let's Play. Because I sure am, because there's also never been a better time. The fact we were almost at 50 subscribers, that this is almost perfect timing, because then we can have more and more support for this series. We can go farther and farther and farther. I do have a layout for Crystal. It's something I made myself, so it's not going to be exactly the best. I will say that right now, it's not going to be the best in the world, but it's something that I tried on. You know what? If I have to make something new next time, great. If it's something that works, even better. But thank you all for watching. This is Righteous Raikou signing out. Remind you guys to keep riding the lightning.